Hello, good morning, welcome to Thoughts and Updates. Here it is, a fairly blustery, cold morning, and I'm outside Tennant Caledonia's brewery. Why would I be there? And it's because of these things. Here's the murals. There's quite a lovely set of murals going along the wall behind me, and also round the side, telling the story of an institution within Glasgow. Glasgow in many ways can be said to be fairer an alcohol like Scotland is, and it's almost for an alcoholic standing in the shadow of a brewery on a Sunday morning is not quite unusual in Scotland. But what it is an indication of just exactly how strong the economy has to be within any part of the United Kingdom, in fact any part of Europe at the moment, because of something called the coronavirus, which apparently is sweeping across nation states and giving us a little bit of thought beyond Brexit, beyond the European Union, beyond globalisation, and suggesting there's a possibility that the coronavirus is likely to fragment the way in which trade has been developing over years. And we've seen that a little bit this week because Flybe, the cheap airline, has become the latest victim economically of the coronavirus, because the number of people who wanted to go abroad dipped, the number of flights leaving from a variety of airports were cut, and they were unable to cope, and they were already in trouble, and that trouble just got worse. So an institution like Tennant's Caledonian, with the things that are on the wall behind me, the murals, there's a couple of things that it signifies. First of all, is a strong economy, and it's been here since the 16th century, a brewery there, and also Tennant since the late 19th century. But also the artistic development within Glasgow of murals. One of the things that Lorna and I had sort of mused upon as we were going through Glasgow, she had noted a lot of graffiti. And I love good graffiti. I think it's fantastic, the stuff that the really good artists stick up on the wall. But the sloganism, whatever it may be, whatever the politics of it may be, and in Glasgow, sectarianism rears its ugly head on a regular basis as we get pro this and anti that up, and seeing it is quite ugly. But what Glasgow has certainly done is it's got a massive amount, there's a mural trail in fact, of just incredible artwork that's been put up on the side of buildings, and I've always driven past here in awe of what they've put up there, whether it's a brewery or not. If you get the chance to come down this area and see it, it's just superb, and a beacon to the rest of the city. And the contribution of various things that I've been involved in to the economy is something that's been particularly interesting this week, because UEFA, of all places, have published a report which has told us just exactly how much Ayr United Football Academy are contributing to the local economy, and we're talking millions. As we talk about all voluntary organisations contributing millions to the local economy because people do work for free. It's not about saving the wages that it might cost people to do it. So therefore, what happens is that we're taking jobs away from people who should be doing it. It's the on costs. It's the fact that thousands of pounds of money is going in to employ people in voluntary sector organisations, to engage with volunteers, to engage with people who are willing to do something and contribute to their community for free. But then that contribution is not just saving money, it's also giving opportunity to people to develop, to grow, to become something, which allows them to be an economic contributor as time goes on, as their self-esteem and self-confidence grows, and then eventually they are not wage slaves, but they are people who are in employment and therefore able to not only pay taxes but buy out of wee shops, contribute to the local economies and microeconomies. So that has been particularly pleasant. So the arts and football this week has been something that's been much in my mind. Football yesterday, Ayr United got a 0-0 draw, third game in a row that they've had a clean sheet, which is great. But stalling with their, that's two draws in a row, stalling with their attempt to get and stay in the playoffs for the end of the season, which I hope they don't go through into the Premier League. The Premier League itself, Rangers are in crisis. Apparently they're playing Bayer Leverkusen soon in the European Cup. They'll probably hump them and lose to Ross. It was Ross County yesterday they were playing, or this afternoon. I don't keep my eye on such unimportant games. So football and particularly my own team has been a decent enough week as we head towards Scotland versus Israel. Now, the Scottish women's team won cup yesterday that they were involved in. They quite unusual, and this is really difficult for Scottish football fans. They've played 2 out of 3 games, they've won it already. Scotland, for goodness sake, it's like they've forgotten their DNA. We normally lose the first game, draw the second, and need a miracle against the best game in the group in order to win, qualify or whatever, but they've won, which is great. The men's team are heading towards Hampden and the game against Israel shortly. Steve Clark, the manager, was being interviewed by the Guardian newspaper yesterday. It was printed yesterday, and one of the things that he didn't become famous for, but highlighted when he came back to Kilmarnock to manage, was the sectarianism that exists in Scotland. And he talked about it at that point being a disgrace, and yesterday he talked about it being swept under the carpet. Not frightened of speaking out and saying the difficult things, which I think is great, absolutely, and he's right, by the way, he's absolutely right. And as we head towards Hampden, hopefully it'll be filled, and hopefully we'll get the result against Israel, and it's Norway or Serbia next, and then he will take us into our very first championship that we have qualified for over 20 years. 20 years odd of pain for those of us who can remember a regular Cups, which was Scotland being at the World Cup or the European Championships. Hopefully this time round it will happen. But we've been here before. As I said, if the Scottish women are forgetting what's in their DNA, maybe the men are going to come on trumps. It's also been a week educationally where I've been inundated with trying to sort out and resolve the A-level coursework phone calls. I tutor for ICS Learn Limited, who actually are based in Silkenhall Street in Glasgow. We have a global reach, and this year I haven't had too many candidates from outside the United Kingdom, but I did have a former Polish, he's Polish, but a Polish guy who moved to the United Kingdom not so long ago, so his grasp of English when he's doing an A-level English language is quite remarkable, stunning. And in A-level English language you have to write an original piece, and higher, the SQA higher in Scotland, you have to write a discursive or a personal essay. And this week the best essay, the best story that I have read for a long, long time didn't come from either of those sources, came from one of our kids who's in care. I had given them the task of rewriting Little Red Riding Hood, a cracking story. Really filled with exceptional language, and it just goes to show you that sometimes the best is not where you would normally expect it, and to stop thinking particularly of these kids in a fashion which bins them, puts them in a place that they certainly don't deserve to be. Boxing last night, my Scott Quigg is at the end, probably. John O'Carroll just bossed him for 10 rounds. There's a lot of discussion as to whether Joe Gallagher, Scott Quigg's trainer, should have been pulling him out. For Ringside Report yesterday, I did a bit of stuff all about Luis Acosta, an Argentinian boxer, who, apart from having a relatively modest career, fought Terry O'Connor, who's a well-respected referee and judge in the UK. And sometimes we hear a lot about referees and judges, you know, particularly in football. They've never played football, never played at a higher level. They really don't know what it's like to be a player. And Terry O'Connor had a modest career as a heavyweight boxer, and there he is. The last big fight that he refereed was Bellew versus Usyk. And a well-respected guy in the circuit, but Louis Acosta an Argentinian who flew under the radar for many of us, got to fight Tim Witherspoon. I think it was in 1981 or 82. So, great joy doing that. And I've also been looking at the American boxing team that was due to go to the 1980 Olympics, because quite a few of them died in an air crash. In sport in the United Kingdom, air crash that really does resonate with everybody, of course, is the Munich air disaster, where so many of the Busby Babes, Manchester United's team, died in an aircraft accident in Munich. Whereas this is the equivalent, I would imagine, of what happened in sporting terms, the sporting tragic terms for Americans, because they lost such a golden age of sports people. Well, let me finish with politics now. Super Tuesday was during the week where a number of states got to choose their Democratic nomination, and they have gone for Joe Biden, whose campaign is now resurgent. Now, last week I said Shirley Brad, who's my American editor, and a great guy who served in the armed forces in America, who does not like, I think it is safe to say, dear old Donald Trump one little bit. Surely to God there is somebody in the Democratic Party who they can get to fight Donald Trump and stop a second term. Now in America, presidents, incumbent presidents, tend to have an advantage when it comes to the second time they face the polls, because they are incumbent and people naturally are conservative. So what they tend to do is they tend to vote for what they know rather than vote for what they should. Joe Biden looks like the guy he was the Vice President under Barack Obama, so there's a lot of stuff in there that will be seen very positively. He knew that the early results were not going to go for him, because the heart of the Democratic Party, according to him, was still to come, and it came in Super Tuesday, and a lot of African American voters in particular voted for him. My hope is that between Biden and Bernie Sanders, it would look as though, to be fair to the Americans, that they are more likely to go for the conservative-leaning candidate of Joe Biden than they are for Bernie Sanders. So we're all over here hoping that Biden gets it. We're all sitting over here hoping that he then goes on and defeats Donald Trump, because if he doesn't, it's another 4 years, and that is it a tragedy? Well, for 4 years we've managed to have a presidency that's not quite as bad as we thought. P.G. O'Rourke, being interviewed rather this week, talked about how it wasn't as bad as anybody was thinking it was going to be, but another 4 years could be a riot, and that's not a positive. So, politics has been much in my thinking because of the American system, but it's going to affect us all if come November 2020 that Donald Trump is not only elected President of the United States, but re-elected President of the United States, and fingers are crossed over here that that doesn't happen. So, for another week, we're back in, running around the country, doing lots of things, with lots to talk about next week. I'll leave it there, and I will see you later. Bye for now.